They say opposites attract, and introverts and extroverts are proof of that. One thrives on quiet, the other on chaos, and somehow they manage to fall in love. You may have already noticed how often introverts and extroverts end up together as friends, partners, or even co-workers. And somehow the relationship often just works. It's almost like some kind of universal matchmaking glitch. You'd think they'd drive each other crazy. One wants to stay home and recharge. The other wants to host a karaoke night. And yet, they can't seem to stay apart. So, what's going on here? Let's let the cat out of the bag about why introverts and extroverts are so irresistibly drawn to each other, and how that mix can be both magical and maddening at the same time. Are you ready? Hi, I'm Kate. Definitely an introvert, and I've had friendships with plenty of extroverts. I hope you'll take a moment to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. That really helps this new channel grow, and I appreciate it so very much. But let's start with this. Opposites really do attract, but not because of some mystical chemistry thing. It's because we're curious, even if that curiosity is subconscious. We're often drawn to what feels new, refreshing, or different from ourselves. And if you're an introvert, an extrovert can look like pure sunlight, confident, spontaneous, expressive. Meanwhile, the extrovert looks at the introvert and sees calm, mystery, and a kind of emotional depth that feels grounding in a noisy world. It's like emotional yin and yang. Together they create balance. I can tell you from experience, as an introvert, I've always been fascinated by people who can just walk into a room and start chatting with strangers, like it's no big deal. Meanwhile, I'm mentally preparing my exit strategy before I've even said hello. But that boldness of the extrovert, it's kind of mesmerizing to watch, isn't it? And extroverts can feel the same way about us. They love the quiet confidence, the thoughtfulness, the way we make them feel heard instead of just waiting for our turn to talk. Introverts and extroverts balance each other. Extroverts bring the spark. They add color, laughter, and momentum. They pull introverts into the world when we might otherwise stay safely tucked in our cozy corners. On the flip side, introverts bring calm and reflection. We help slow things down, create space for real conversation, and remind extroverts that silence isn't scary, it's restorative. So you can see each one offers what the other secretly needs, but doesn't even realize they need it, and they certainly don't know how to access it. Of course, balance can eventually end up in chaos, because once the honeymoon phase of personality contrast wears off, real life sets in. And that's when introverts start thinking, why does this person never stop talking? While extroverts start thinking, why does this person need to vanish for 2 days after every social party? What started out as charming difference can suddenly feel like deal breakers. But that's also where the growth happens. You see, introvert-extrovert relationships, whether romantic or platonic, can be like personal development boot camps. Yeah, think about it that way. Extroverts get the opportunity to learn patience, empathy, and the beauty of quiet connection. Introverts can learn flexibility, spontaneity, and how to survive small talk without needing therapy afterward. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always work out. I can tell you that from personal experience. But it's the kind of dynamic that can stretch you in the best possible way. So let's talk about communication, because that's where the magic and the mess happens. Extroverts are verbal processors. They talk in order to think. They want to think something out, they talk immediately. They need to say things out loud to make sense of their feelings. Introverts, we think. And you know what? Sometimes we overthink in order to talk. We process internally first before responding. Once we found the right words, we can let it out. You can probably see where this goes wrong. The extrovert keeps talking, filling the silence, thinking the introvert's quiet means disinterest. Meanwhile, the introvert's thinking, I just need a minute to form a coherent thought before I open my mouth. It can seem to take forever for both sides to understand that this difference isn't personal, it's neurological. But once they get it, everything changes. Extroverts can learn to give space, and introverts can learn to speak up sooner, even if it's just to say, I need to think about that for a minute. The best pairings find a rhythm that honors both needs, conversation and contemplation. Introverts and extroverts often just can't quit each other, though. They are drawn to each other and they grow through contrast. Extroverts pull us introverts out of our comfort zones, sometimes kicking and screaming, sure, but we often end up grateful for that. The party we dreaded going to, the impromptu dinner with too many friends, the karaoke night we swore we'd hate, but managed to live through. That's how extroverts help us expand our world. In return, introverts teach extroverts the art of slowing down. We show them how to enjoy solitude, how to listen without immediately reacting, how to find peace in stillness. For an extrovert, learning to sit quietly with their own thoughts can be as big a leap as an introvert chit-chatting non-stop at a party. Both sides grow because they see life from a completely different angle. And here's something people often overlook. Both introverts and extroverts have the same emotional depth. They just express that depth differently. Extroverts might shout their feelings from the rooftop, while introverts quietly build an inner universe of meaning and memory. That difference creates intrigue. The extrovert wants to unlock the introvert to discover what's beneath the surface. The introvert, meanwhile, is drawn to the extrovert's fun nature, their ease with finding joy in a crowd, while we often struggle to do that. I remember a close friendship I had with an extroverted friend years ago. She was sunshine in human form, chatty, bubbly, always surrounded by people. I couldn't relate to her energy, but I loved her honesty. She said things I'd only think. And she once told me she loved how calm she felt when she and I talked, like she didn't have to perform. That's the beauty of this dynamic. We give each other permission to be different. Now, the energy mismatch can be extremely difficult to deal with day in and day out. If you've ever dated or lived with your opposite personality type, you know the struggle. The introvert wants a quiet night with a book. The extrovert wants to invite everyone they've ever met over for tacos. The key isn't choosing one over the other. It's figuring out the compromise and being aware of each other's needs. Sometimes that means the extrovert goes to the party alone, and the introvert stays home guilt-free. Other time, the introvert pushes themselves to go for just an hour because love or friendship means meeting halfway. What doesn't work is trying to change each other. The introvert will never magically become a social butterfly, and the extrovert will never be totally satisfied living like a hermit. The beauty is learning to love each other's natural rhythms. And let's not forget the chemistry factor. There's something undeniably electric about the introvert-extrovert connection. The extrovert brings the spark, the introvert brings the depth, and together it feels complete. It's like fire and water, different yet somehow they create steam together. Extroverts make introverts feel seen in ways we didn't know we even needed. And introverts make extroverts feel truly heard in ways they rarely experience. But it's important to recognize that it's well worth the time and energy it takes to work it all out. And while you're doing that, the attraction can sneak up on you. Introverts don't necessarily seek out extroverts, and extroverts rarely go looking for someone quiet. But when they meet and something clicks, it can work with a little work. The introvert thinks, wow, this person is so alive. The extrovert thinks, wow, this person actually listens to me. Both are slightly envious of the other's superpower. Over time, that curiosity can turn into admiration, and that admiration can turn into connection. And it's a connection that keeps evolving, because unlike two people with the same temperament, introverts and extroverts constantly challenge each other. They challenge each other to grow. One brings energy, the other brings focus. One shines outward, the other glows inward. Of course, the magic can fizzle if both sides stop appreciating those differences. When an extrovert stops giving space, or an introvert retreats too deeply, the balance can break. The secret isn't eliminating friction, it's using it. The friction reminds you both to stretch, to understand, to keep learning. If you're an introvert who's ever loved an extrovert, or vice versa, you already know it's not about compatibility in the traditional sense. It's about complementing each other. You don't need to be the same to belong together. You just need to respect how the other one recharges. So yes, introverts and extroverts are irresistibly attracted to each other sometimes because they are different. But if they manage to stay connected, it's because they learn to do the work, to be curious, not critical about those differences. They remind each other that there's no single right way to be. We're all human after all. And after all the years of working as a tour director and living overseas, I've spent decades surrounded by people, guiding, talking, laughing, and then retreating to quiet moments in my hotel room that kept me sane. Maybe that's why I find this introvert-extrovert connection so fascinating. If you're an introvert, don't shy away from the extroverts who light up a room. They might just pull you into an adventure you never expected. And if you're an extrovert, don't overlook the quiet ones. Sometimes we're the calm that keeps your fire burning steady. When both sides learn to appreciate what the other side brings, it's not just attraction, it's harmony. So whether you're the talker, the thinker, or somewhere in between, remember, you don't have to choose one way of being. You just have to understand your own rhythm, and the people who dance differently might just teach you something beautiful about yourself. So, I hope you enjoyed this little journey into the relationships between extroverts and introverts. It's a complicated mess sometimes. I've been there, done that, but that's the way it goes. So I hope you enjoyed this and that you'll think about subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. That will help this new channel to grow better. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. Next time.